Three, two, one. You are now tuned to the Platinum Jewel channel.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Platinum Jewel. October is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and I've decided to completely have my episode devoted to it. Recently, I had an opportunity to visit Emory University right here in Atlanta, Georgia. They have a department that studies human genetics with the focus of Down syndrome. So with that, I hope you and your family find this episode informative and educational, but most importantly, heartwarming and enjoyable because it's all about Down syndrome.
Hey everybody, it is Platinum Jewel, and I know I've been on hiatus a long time, but I did come back today for a very special episode. October is National Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and as many of you know, I have a sister by the name of Joy who's 19, and she was born with Down syndrome. So I'm very, very excited today to come back and do this episode because I want people to be aware of what Down syndrome is and how it affects many family and friends. So I've come right straight to Emory University, and I have a lovely lady who graciously has agreed to sit down and do this interview with us. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Stephanie Sherman. I'm a professor here in the Department of Human Genetics at Emory. I've been working with Down syndrome, doing research, trying to understand what causes it and what the outcomes are since about 1989.
Ooh, oh, that's awesome. So, Stephanie, again, thank you so much for sitting down with us. The first question is actually, what is Down syndrome? I know some people call it Downs, some people call it Down syndrome. You see so many different things online. Can you just really break it down and tell us what it means?
Okay. So we all have 46 chromosomes in all in each cell, 23 pairs.
Okay.
And for that 21st pair, the chromosome 21, there's an extra chromosome.
Okay.
So that extra genetic material leads to the symptoms and some of the signs that we see that we now label as Down syndrome.
Okay, so would that be why they look a little bit different? Because I notice almost all Down syndrome children and adults, they have a specific look. And that's, to me, that's kind of how I can tell someone has Down syndrome.
So that's true. They have, as we say, characteristic features in the face, kind of a flat back of the head,
right.
More flat face. Sometimes the eyes are slanting in a particular direction.
Right.
So there's particular features that you can actually identify at birth.
Okay.
And so many times you get a hint right away that the infant has at least signs of Down syndrome, and then they can do a test to confirm that that's the case.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Now, are there different types of Down syndrome? And if there is, what are they? Okay.
So as I said, there's an extra chromosome. Sometimes that extra chromosome is there's 3 of them completely intact, so you just have an extra chromosome.
Okay.
And that not usually, is almost always due to something going wrong when either the egg or the sperm is formed.
Oh,
okay?
that early.
That early. Yes,
Okay.
Yes, yes. Another kind is actually when that chromosome 21 actually gets stuck onto another chromosome. That's called a translocation. And then in that case, an individual can carry that translocation and pass it on to their child. So in that one form, which is only about 5% of cases,
Okay.
You can actually inherit Down syndrome in a sense. There can be an increased risk of having another child if you carry that translocation.
question because I actually was wondering if it is hereditary, and you pretty much have answered that within a 5% chance.
So very small proportion of individuals with Down syndrome have a translocation, and if their parent carries that in a what they say a balanced form, so they're not showing signs of Down syndrome,
Okay.
they can pass it on.
And that could be either male or female.
Right.
Okay, so let's say if I'm an adult and I'm about to have a child, or I'm planning for a child, is there some type of test that I can get to see if I have that chromosome?
That's a good question. So you can have a test. I mean, you can do a test where you essentially look at the chromosomes in the cells.
Okay.
So that can be done in the mother.
Okay.
If the mother's carrying that translocation, it can be identified.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always the mother, it could be the father.
Right.
So if you wanted to rule that out,
Mm-hmm.
you would have to test both parents.
Okay.
Again, it's quite rare, so
Okay.
typically that's not done.
Okay.
What's more often done is to do the screening of the fetus.
Okay.
Right, to see if there is an extra chromosome 21 in whatever form, whether it's intact chromosome 21 or one that's translocated to another chromosome.
I think I may have seen that. Is that where they put a needle through the belly button?
Right,
Am I
well,
mistaken?
through the belly, and they take off fluid from with the baby sitting in, the amniotic fluid.
Mm-hmm.
That fluid has cells from the fetus.
Okay.
So they can take that fluid and do the testing.
Okay.
Now that's probably the most invasive way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, they've developed other tests that are much less invasive, but they're more screening tests.
Okay.
So now almost every mother, on her permission,
Mm-hmm.
has a maternal screening done. So that can be done on blood
Okay.
from the mother early in the pregnancy, and again cells. Well, in that case, so there's even a newer test, but let me say the one that's typical.
Mm-hmm.
They can look at different markers in the blood to see are they increased or decreased.
Okay.
And then they can say, okay, with some probability, the fetus might have trisomy 21 is another term for Down syndrome. That's all they're looking at that point. Are there 3 chromosome 21s?
Okay.
There's a new test where they actually can take blood, and there's just free-floating DNA in the blood that's from the fetus.
Okay.
And then they can again look and ask that same question. Is there evidence of an extra chromosome 21?
Wow.
So that's called non-invasive screening.
Okay, so the non-invasive screening is something that you can have as soon as you find out you're pregnant, maybe a little far down the line. Okay, so that's something, moms, that you may want to go ahead and get checked out when you are pregnant, just to find out a little bit of if you have that in your bloodstream.
Right, and if that, and again, it's a screening test. That's very important to know that the result comes back as a certain probability, and then you decide which direction you want to go. A more invasive test, or that knowledge is fine, and just knowing that you have that risk is something that just good information that you have.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Now, I'm sure a lot of people can ask, is Down syndrome, is there a cure to it?
Is there a cure? That's a really good question. Is there a cure? Not now. Certainly not now. However, they're doing things now to try to reduce some of the cognitive, some of the the intellectual challenge that a child with Down syndrome does have.
Okay.
In most cases. So actually I didn't think this was going to happen in my lifetime. I'm always just so amazed. So what they're doing now, they understand that there's an imbalance in the way the brain functions. Mm-hmm. There's an increase of one type of transmission of neurons, where the information is passed from one nerve to another to help in learning,
Okay.
and a decrease in the other. It's the inhibitory versus excitatory. Doesn't matter, but the issue that the targeted drug that they're looking at now dampens the effect of that one type of transmission to put everything back in balance again.
Okay.
So right now they're in clinical trials with the older individuals with Down syndrome to look at safety.
Okay.
And that's looking good, and so now they're planning another trial to try to test in younger individuals. And again, what they're doing now is they're trying to affect learning and memory,
Right.
to try to enhance that.
Because as most people know, there is a slower learning capability.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're dumb or ignorant. It's just that they have a slower learning capability.
Right, and they have, as you said, strengths. They have some challenges, but they have some strengths. As you were saying, for your daughter, that memory component.
My
for
sister.
her. Your sister, I'm sister.
Yeah,
Your sister,
no, it's
sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Joy,
yeah.
everyone knows, if you know Joy out there, Joy is one of the smartest people that I've come across. Not saying that I haven't met anyone else with Down syndrome, but as you mentioned, there are so many different characteristics that are in a positive way of what she has. And Joy has a memory that is through the roof. I mean, she can recite an entire movie. So that to me, I can't even do that. So I like to just kind of explain to people that just because they have Down syndrome, like, don't write them off.
That's right. Don't make any assumptions at that point.
Absolutely.
Right?
They still have jobs. I come across lately a lot of places where I am seeing companies give them a job.
Right.
And I think that's awesome.
Right.
So I will definitely encourage you still to try to find out more information about Down syndrome. But I do have some fans out there that always email me different questions. So once they found out I was doing this episode, I got a few questions. So if you don't mind, the first fan is from Michelle W., who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. Hi, Michelle. She says, do all babies with Down syndrome have medical problems?
Well, that's a really good question. The answer is no.
Okay.
So there's a tremendous variation in what the children have with Down syndrome. One of the most significant medical problems is a congenital heart defect.
Okay.
Because that has to be taken care of early on.
Right. And Joy, my sister, she has that. She was born with a hole in her heart and very low oxygen level, and she's had 2 surgeries, one when she was an infant as well as when she was 2. And I think they had to put a shunt in her heart to
Later on, to
close
help with it.
to help with it. Exactly.
Yeah, so that's one of the studies that we're doing, is trying to ask questions about what genes on chromosome 21 or elsewhere causes that variation. Why do some kids with Down syndrome have heart defects and others have structurally normal hearts?
Okay.
What causes that variation, and can we identify those that might have it, and is there a way to help fix that heart? So maybe 1 surgery occurs early on, or 2, but we can understand how that heart is functioning, and again, think about treatments later in life.
Absolutely. I think that's important. Now, still sticking with that question, is there some type of percentage of people with Down syndrome that have congenital heart disease?
Yes.
Is that a study?
Yeah, so we found that about between 40 and 50%
Wow.
of individuals have some type of heart defect.
Okay.
The hole in the heart, as your sister has, it's about 20%
Okay.
of individuals with Down syndrome.
Okay.
That's probably one of the most significant heart defects.
Okay.
And it's at very high risk for individuals with Down syndrome. It only occurs in about 1 in 10,000 of those who don't have the extra chromosome 21.
Wow.
So there's something going on with that extra
Yeah,
chromosome 21.
it would make sense to try to figure out
Right.
why that happens. Well, thank you, Michelle. I hope that answered your question. And our last question is from Steve R. in Chicago, Illinois. Hi, Steve. Steve says, I have a child with Down syndrome. What will he be able to achieve? It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. You can't anticipate what he can achieve. I think the best thought is to just every step that he can take to reach his potential is what you want to focus on.
Absolutely.
They can achieve anything. I mean, they can be a musician.
Absolutely.
They can be an artist. As you said, they can work independently with perhaps a coach if necessary. They can live full and productive lives. So and there's a huge range. So it's not to say that it's all roses. I'm not sure how to say that, right? Yeah. But that's true for everybody.
Absolutely.
That's true for everybody.
Absolutely.
So just that's how we think about each individual as their own person, and each person can really reach a full productive life.
I totally agree. And just speaking from experience, one thing about us dealing with joy, because if no one out there knows, when you have a child with Down syndrome, you really have to educate yourself. Find out, again, what it's about and what precautions that you need to take. And so with Joy, one thing I love about my mom and our family, my mom always made sure that we never treated Joy any different than the rest of us. And as far as Joy being bad and not doing certain things, she still would get on punishment. She still would get a hand tap. There was no difference. So I would advise you to still treat your children or family member just like the rest of you, because they still need love. They need to be cared for, and they have a huge heart, and they're just awesome. If you haven't been around them, find out someone that maybe has a child or a family member, and just go and just have that interaction. I tell you, it's one of the most beautifulest things out there, and you'd be surprised how well they have certain learning capabilities. Well, Stephanie, I truly appreciate you spending some time with us. Tell us again what study you work under, what department?
So we're in human genetics.
Okay.
What's nice about this department is there's also a clinical component to it. So in fact, we do have a clinic for Down syndrome individuals, a specialty clinic, as well as all other types of genetic disorders, and a general genetics clinic, as well as doing basic science within the department. So it's a nice combination of the two. It really helps us know what questions are important clinically, and it helps the clinicians know what they can, what the potential is for helping their individuals that they're caring for. So I'm Stephanie Sherman in the Department of Human Genetics at Emory University. We do studies in Down syndrome both to understand why it happens and what the outcomes are. Specifically now we're studying the heart defect that's associated with Down syndrome, and trying to identify genes and environmental factors that might increase the risk or decrease the risk for having that particular outcome. We're also looking at the range and the variation of cognition and language among individuals with Down syndrome, with the hope that we can come up with better measures for the clinical trials to try to help understand, does this particular drug work, and do you see a change from one time point to the other?
Okay, everyone, I'm Platinum Jewel. Make sure that you comment on this episode, like it, and please make sure that you
subscribe.
Have a good day, guys. I'll see you soon.